I've been a night shift nurse for almost a decade. The hours are long, and the hospital is always too quiet. This old community hospital is always short-staffed. I took the job to fit around my son's classes. I thought I could handle anything until last week. On my first night, I began my rounds at 11. The pediatric ward was supposed to be empty. I walked down the dim hallway, listening to the soft hum of machines. Felt calm. Then I heard a soft whisper. I thought it was just my tired mind. But it came again, clearer this time. It echoed down the hall. As I got closer to the pediatric ward, I felt uneasy. The whispers seemed to call my name. Emma. My heart raced. I stood at the door, fingers hovering over the knob. I don't know why, but I opened the door anyway. The room was empty, and cribs lined the wall. I listened, but the whispers were gone. I shook my head, telling myself it was nothing. The next few nights were worse. The whispers grew louder. Sometimes, I thought I caught shadows darting out of the corner of my eye. They were there and then they weren't. I felt cold every time. I started recording my shifts. I thought if I captured something, it would help. On the third night, I played back my recording. That S when I froze. My voice was there, pleading. I was saying, "Help me." My stomach twisted. I had no memory of saying that. I felt shaky after that. Each night, I found it harder to focus. I started checking over my shoulder. Each corner felt like a lurking threat. On the fifth night, I entered the pediatric ward again. It was different this time. The air was thick. I took a breath, heart racing. "Is anyone there?" I called softly. No answer. I felt wrong about being there. Then I heard it, Emma. Echoing. I crossed the room, fighting the urge to run. In my peripheral vision, I saw a shadow. It made me stop cold. Something was watching me from the corner. My legs felt heavy. I stammered. "Is anyone there?" Silence. Just machines humming. My breath quickened. Then the shadows shifted, swirling. I blinked and stepped back. I turned around, but nothing was behind me. What did I just see? I whispered, panic rising. Before I could steady myself, the lights flickered. A chill ran down my spine. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, only to see a notification pop up, a new recording. I hadn't pressed record. I opened it, pulse pounding. It was dark. I could barely see. Then I heard my voice again. But this time it was clearer and more frantic. "Help me. Please." I stared at the screen, breathless. I didn't want to be there anymore. Then the phone went dead. In the darkness, I felt a presence close by. I could hear faint whispering, closer this time, wrapping around me like a blanket. I turned, and in the stillness, I saw a figure, shadowy and blurry, standing just beyond the doorway. Couldn't move. I was trapped in the night with whatever this was. I wanted to scream, but the sound got caught in my throat. The figure lingered at the door, shifting but never fully stepping into view. My instincts screamed at me to run. Just as I took a step back, the lights flickered again and went out completely. Panic surged in my chest. I fumbled for my phone, hoping to use the light. My hands shook as I tapped the screen, but the darkness swallowed every sound I made. I could barely tell if I was still in the room or if I had stepped into another realm. "Just breathe, Emma," I whispered to myself, but it sounded pitiful in the silence. The whisper returned, filling the room like a ghostly hymn. "Help me." I peered into the shadows. I couldn't tell if it was coming from the dark or from within me. The air felt electric, tinged with something I couldn't name. Suddenly, my phone lit up. A faint blue glow illuminated the wall in front of me. I saw it then, a shimmer along the edge of the doorway. Darted just out of sight. It looked small, like a child. My heart dropped. The pediatric ward. "Hello?" I croaked. "Is someone there?" The whispering stopped. All I could hear was the pounding of my heart and the distant buzzing of machinery from the adjacent ward. My grip tightened around my phone as I approached the door, light aimed at the threshold. The faint glow revealed more of the outline, a small figure. "Show yourself," I demanded, even though every fiber of my being wanted to bolt away. I stepped closer, and then a small face appeared, a girl with big, round eyes staring directly at me. "Help," she said, her voice cracking like glass. "Please." I felt a rush of cold air, like something was drawing out my warmth. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Her head tilted slightly, but she didn't answer. Instead, she pointed behind her, into the darkness of the hallway. I squinted, but I couldn't see anything there. "You have to come," she said, her voice eerily steady. A chill coursed through me. "Come where?" I whispered, backing away. Felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff. "Before time runs out," she urged, looking back into the shadows. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed down the hall, causing me to jump. The girl flinched and stepped back. I felt a surge of dread wash over me. Whatever was here wanted me to follow. I took a step back, ready to bolt. Then I remembered the sounds, the recordings. I can help you." I found my voice, even as my legs screamed to run. "Just tell me what to do." The girl vanished into the darkness, leaving me alone with my rising fear. I wanted to scream, but I bit down on my lip to hold it back. The shadows seemed to swell around me, dark and oppressive. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just dealing with whispers. Something more profound lurked here, and I couldn't escape until I figured out what it wanted. Then everything went dark. I stood frozen in the pitch-black room, my heart racing as I waited for the sensation of fear to pass. But instead of fading, it thickened, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. I could feel the walls closing in, and the air felt heavy with an energy I couldn't shake off. "I'm here," I called out quietly, unsure who I was speaking to. The girl, whatever was lurking in the shadows. My voice echoed back in the silence, mocking my efforts. The phone in my hand felt like a tiny beacon of hope, but it offered little comfort against the looming darkness. With a shaky hand, I swiped the screen to turn on the flashlight feature again. The beam cut through the blackness, revealing a narrow slice of the room and the faint outlines of the furniture. I took a careful step forward, keeping the light aimed toward the door. But it did nothing to illuminate the hallway where the child had retreated. "Help me." Her voice echoed in my mind, a haunting plea that filled me with dread. As I stepped into the hallway, the cold air enveloped me, intensifying with each cautious stride. The fluorescent lights flickered to life above me, casting a sickly yellow glow. I could see the edge of the pediatric ward now, its door half open, as if inviting me to enter. "Where are you?" I whispered, feeling utterly ridiculous for talking to the empty corridor. Panic clawed at my throat. What if I wasn't meant to follow? What if this was a trap? Just then, a low hum filled the air, growing louder with each second. The source was coming from the nurse's station ahead. I crept closer, heart pounding, and felt a sense of urgency. The girl's warning echoed in my ears. Time was running out. As I rounded the corner, the lights pulsed and dimmed, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. I quickly turned back to the doorway I had just passed, but it was now completely dark. There was no way I could go back. When I saw it, a faint glow emanating from a small room just off the nurse's station. I hesitated but felt drawn to it, like a moth to a flame. I moved closer, and as my light swept over the entryway, I spotted a shape sitting on the floor. It was a stuffed animal, a ragged teddy bear with one eye missing. Next to it lay a small note, crumpled and worn. I knelt down, my fingers trembling as I reached to pick it up. A shiver of anticipation rushed through me. The note read, "Find her before it's too late." Before I could process its meaning, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoing behind me. I spun around, the flashlight beam shaking as I swung it toward the sound, but the hallway was empty. My breath caught in my throat. Someone or something was coming. I knew then that I couldn't turn back. I had to find the girl. I had to uncover the truth. But as I gathered my wits, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread settle in my gut. What if I wasn't the one doing the searching? What if I was the one being hunted? I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. This wasn't the time to panic. I turned my flashlight back toward the dim hallway, trying to focus on the surroundings instead of the creeping fear clawing at me. The shadows seemed to stretch and bend, warping the shapes around me. I had to choose quickly. I could either investigate the glowing room or follow the sound of footsteps. The urge to flee nagged at me, but my feet refused to backtrack. The girl's voice lingered at the edge of my mind, calling for help. Swiftly, I made my way toward the glow. As I stepped into the small room, the light revealed its contents. It was a storage room, bare except for medical supplies and a few boxes. I scanned the walls, noticing crayon drawings from children. Some were cheerful, depicting stick figures and suns, while others were unsettling, dark smudges that looked like they were made in a hurry. My heart skipped as I noticed another note taped to the wall. With shaking hands, I ripped it off and read, "You shouldn't have come here." The chilling message sent a wave of ice down my spine. Then, just behind me, the footsteps returned, louder and more persistent. I turned, sweeping my flashlight around the room. But again, I was met with nothing but silence. I could feel my thoughts racing. There was something or someone moving in the shadows, darting just out of sight. "Please, just show yourself," I shouted, feeling increasingly foolish yet desperate. There had to be an explanation, a reason for the shadows and the whispers. From the corner of my eye I caught movement. The flashlight beam flickered, illuminating a quick flash of white just beyond the doorway. I stumbled toward it, fueled by curiosity and dread, but just as I reached the threshold, the light flickered off entirely. The darkness enveloped me like a shroud. Panic struck again. I jabbed at the flashlight button, but it was dead. I was plunged into a void, heart hammering against my ribs. I had lost my only source of light. The footsteps grew closer, echoing like thunder in the confines of the tiny room. I felt a rush of air as if someone or something was moving through the darkness toward me. There was no escape. My throat tightened, and I stumbled back, my back hitting the wall. Then came a whisper. "Help me," it said again, softer this time. I blinked, trying to adjust to the dark. The whisper beckoned no, pleaded though I still couldn't see. I reached out, my palms bracing against the wall, trying to steady myself. I called back, my voice shaking, "Where are you?" The silence that followed felt heavy, charged with a tension that made my skin prickle. And just like that, the footsteps ceased. The air stilled, leaving me in a thick void of uncertainty. Suddenly, a sliver of light cut through the darkness. It wasn't my flashlight, though. It flickered from the corridor behind me, illuminating the edge of the doorframe. My heart raced. Was it an escape or a trap? With my pulse pounding in my ears, I took a cautious step forward, glimpsing into the corridor. But whatever lay beyond was shrouded in shadow, and I felt the weight of a sinister presence watching me from the dark. I had to make a choice. Would I step into the light, or would I stay to confront whatever was watching from the shadows? I hesitated, weighing my options. The light behind me felt like a lifeline, but it also hinted at dangers I couldn't see. I glanced back at the glow in the corridor, heart pounding. I had to know if the source of the whisper was just my imagination or something more. I stepped over the threshold into the corridor, squinting against the sudden brightness. The flickering light came from an emergency exit sign that buzzed ominously, casting long shadows that flickered like phantoms on the walls. I needed to pick a direction, let the whisper guide me, or follow the light that seemed to pulse with each heartbeat. Before I could decide, a sudden crash echoed from deeper down the hallway, followed by a chilling laughter that sliced through the air. The sound was manic, playful yet menacing. I froze. My instincts screamed at me to turn and run back to the storage room, but that whisper still implored me to stay. With a deep breath, I ignored the echo of laughter and crept toward the source of the sound. As I reached a doorway at the end of the hall, I felt a tingle at the back of my neck. There was something about this room that felt different, thick with energy, tinged with fear. I glanced inside. The room was filled with old equipment. An ancient examination table stood at the center, flanked by shelves lined with dusty jars that I dared not examine closely. I stepped in, the floor creaking beneath my weight. Just then, I noticed something shifting on the table. A white sheet lay half-draped over a figure, revealing a hand, pale and lifeless. My heart dropped. The laughter was louder now, echoing off the walls like evil chalk on a blackboard. I took a careful step closer, my mind racing. Was this an illusion? A trick of the shadows? My breath caught in my throat as the laughter faded, replaced by the soft whisper I had heard before. Help me. I felt drawn to the figure. What was it? Curiosity mingled with dread as I reached for the sheet. My fingers brushed against the cold fabric, and in that moment, the lights flickered violently, then plunged me back into darkness. Terror wrapped around my chest. I knew I had to act. My instincts screamed at me to look away, but I couldn't. I pulled the sheet back, revealing the face of a little girl, her eyes closed, as if she were sleeping. But she looked too pale, too still. Her mouth moved, and I could hear her voice again, clearer this time. Please, she whispered, her breath barely a breeze against my skin. Before I could muster a response, the emergency lights flickered back on, revealing not only the girl but a shadowed figure looming over her. My heart raced. Someone was in the room with us. Adrenaline surged through me. I stumbled back, words caught in my throat, fear paralyzing my limbs. Then the figure turned its head, and I finally saw its face. It was myself. I gasped, trying to comprehend the impossible scene before me. Just as quickly, the lights began to flicker again, plunging me into darkness once more. A scream built in my chest. I stumbled back, feeling the cold metal of an exam table press into my side. I was not alone, and whatever I had awakened was ready to come for me. I stumbled backward, panic surging through me. The darkness swallowed the room, but the image of my reflection, myself, yet not quite burned in my mind. It was like staring into a mirror that showed not just my face but something deeper, darker. A whisper, soft but insistent, drifted through the air. Find me, it urged. My breath hitched as I stood frozen, caught between the urge to flee and the need to understand. In a burst of courage, I reached for the light switch. My fingers fumbled against the wall, and the click of the switch sent a shaky pulse of illumination through the room. The girl on the table remained still, and my doppelganger had vanished. My heart raced. What the hell is going on? I whispered, my voice trembling. This had to be a nightmare. I had to wake up. But the oppressive feeling in the air told me otherwise. I turned to the medical equipment scattered around, rusted tools, old machines collecting dust. They felt like relics of a forgotten time, haunting in their abandonment. I needed to search the room for any sign of life, or perhaps a clue to what I was experiencing. Suddenly, a loud thump echoed from behind me. I spun around, my heart pounding in my chest. The sound came from a shadowy corner of the room. A heavy door creaked open, revealing a darkened corridor. I wanted to flee, but that whisper, now more desperate, called to me again. Please, gripped by both fear and urgency, I advanced towards the source of the sound and the voice. My instincts warned me against it, yet curiosity propelled me forward. As I crossed the threshold into the corridor, chills raced up my spine. The hallway was chilled with a damp air that clung to my skin. Just ahead, I noticed flickering shadows, too quick, too erratic to be natural. I hesitated, glimpsing the remnants of a crime scene across the floor. This felt wrong, very wrong. Help me, the voice called again, insistent and pleading. The girl. I had to find out what had happened to her and who, if anyone, was behind this. I rushed forward, tracing the light along the walls. I could see doors lining either side of the corridor, their surfaces marked by deep scratches as if something had tried to claw its way out. I pushed one open, revealing another examination room, this one darker and filled with ominous shapes. Then I saw it, a figure huddled in the corner, shrouded in shadows. It appeared familiar, but the details were distorted. My heart quickened. Was this another version of myself? Get out! The voice screamed, but it was deeper, echoing. You don't belong here. I recoiled, the reality of the situation crashing down on me. I stumbled back, colliding with another door behind me. It swung open into darkness. Panic shot through me as I glanced back at the figure. It was gone. A chill seized my body, and I bolted down the corridor, the whisper trailing behind me like a storm. I needed an escape before whatever haunted this place caught up to me. Each door I passed felt like another chance at salvation or madness. I needed to find an answer. But with every turn, the shadows deepened, twisting what little sanity I had left. I had to discover the truth, but I also needed to survive. Then, I heard laughter again, maintained, echoed, and gleeful. I realized it was not just madness that resided here. It was something far more twisted, and it was coming for me. I ran as fast as I could, pushing through the thick, stagnant air. Each step echoed in the oppressive silence of the corridor. I needed to focus. I wouldn't let the darkness swallow me whole. The laughter faded for a moment, replaced by another whisper, softer and more urgent. Help me! It drifted through the air, almost like a lament. That unmistakable plea sent a shiver down my spine. Who was I really trying to save here? I forced myself to slow down as I approached another door, one with faded numbers etched into the wood. I hesitated, wrestling with the urge to burst through it. But what if there was more to discover? The longing for answers clawed at my insides, battling against the instinct to escape. I grasped the handle, turning it slowly. It creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room cluttered with half-empty vials and sheets of paper scattered about. The walls were bare, bearing the testing of time. But something caught my eye. A single frail figure sat slumped over a table in the corner, tangled in shadows. "Please," they croaked, their voice raspy and thin. My heart skipped. It was her, the girl. Was she truly real, or just a figment of my imagination? "Where are you? What happened to you?" I croaked back, feeling the weight of despair in the air. The girl lifted her head, her eyes wide and glossy. "They took me. They needed me." Her words trickled out slowly like a painful truth. "Find them before they find you." Who took you?" I pressed, stepping closer. Fear mingled with determination as I tried to piece together the fragments of her story. But before she could answer, the shadows behind her twisted, and a low growl rumbled through the room. I felt myself freeze. Something was coming, lurking just beyond sight. "Run!" she shouted suddenly, her eyes wild with fright. I didn't need to be told twice. I bolted from the room, heart hammering. The laughter grew louder, intertwining with frantic whispers, wrapping around me like chains. I veered left down the hall, searching for a way out. Suddenly, I heard a thud, heavy and deliberate, behind me. Panic surged through me. How close was it? I risked a glance over my shoulder. Nothing. Just darkness, thick as fog, shifting like it had a mind of its own. No time to think. I pressed on, adrenaline propelling me past tattered doorframes and flickering lights. Heads of instruments peeked out from the cracked doors like watching eyes. The hallway twisted and turned, leading me deeper into its maze. Then I spotted a window at the end, a place to breathe, a glimpse of freedom. I rushed toward it, but as I reached for the latch, the empty reflection in the glass seemed to warp. Suddenly, I saw them, figures, shadows that hovered at the edges of my vision, whispering in a language I couldn't decipher. I backed away, heart racing. Whatever I thought I was escaping, it was right behind me. That when I felt cold breath against my neck. I spun around. The corridor behind me had morphed. It was no longer the path I had just taken. It was a spiral into chaos, an ever-deepening abyss. I was trapped. I turned back, not knowing where to go. The walls around me seemed to close in, distorting into grotesque shapes. The air thickened, tinged with a metallic scent that made my stomach churn. I pressed my back against the cool wall, searching for a way out. I could still hear the whispers and laughter mixing with the growls, a cacophony of confusion. My breath came in quick gasps, and my mind raced. What had the girl meant by "find them"? Who were they? Something flickered in the corner of my eye. I turned sharply, half expecting to see a face staring back at me. But nothing. Just shadows dancing along the walls. I took a step forward, driven by curiosity and a desperate need to understand this nightmare. Suddenly, another thud echoed through the corridor, and it was closer this time. I crouched low, my heart thrumming in my chest. What was hunting me? I needed a plan. In the absence of clarity, I turned toward the door at the end of the hall. It looked more substantial than the others, well-worn but sturdy. Maybe it would lead me to safety. As I approached, the light flickered above, casting a false sense of comfort. I gripped the handle, hesitating for just a second. Deep breath. One push. It swung open slowly, revealing a darkened room filled with more papers and faded photographs. My mind swirled in confusion as I took a step inside. The atmosphere felt heavy, oppressive. I thought I could hear voices, real voices, mingling with the horrific symphony outside. "Is anyone here?" I called, hoping for a response. Silence answered me. I inched further, scanning the room. Then something caught my eye. On a table, an old photograph lay face up. As I approached, I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. The image showed a group of people standing outside the hospital. They looked familiar, but I couldn't place them at first. Then it hit me, the girl. "Where are you?" I whispered to myself, eyes darting around for any sign of her or the shadows lurking behind me. Just then, I heard it again, a voice. Soft, almost pleading. "Help me." It was her. The girl. There was no mistaking it this time. I turned around quickly, ready to sprint back into the hall. But as I did, a dark figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and twisted, its features were distorted, shifting as if it were being pulled by an unseen force. "No!" I yelled, instinctively backing away. I knew I had to escape before it caught me. I glanced at the photograph one last time, realizing the resemblance. They were all connected to the girl. Then, in the thick silence, the figure stepped forward, blocking my exit completely. My heart dropped. This thing, whatever it was the hunter. And I was the prey. I darted towards the side, looking for another way out. Suddenly, a shriek pierced the air, echoing through the hall. It was followed by a series of crashing sounds, furniture tipping over, glass breaking. I lurched forward, driven by fear, adrenaline coursing through my veins as I fled back into the corridor. There might be a way out, and I wasn't about to let this thing catch me. I had to find the girl and the answers. I sprinted straight ahead, hoping for an escape before it was too late. But as I rounded the corner, I stumbled into a room that made my blood run cold. When I saw it, a door with a red light glowing ominously above it. I stood frozen for a moment, the red light pulsing like a heartbeat above the door. My instincts screamed at me to run, but something compelled me to move closer. What lay behind that door? The girl's voice rang in my ears, echoing like a distant memory. "Help me." Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward. I reached out to grasp the handle, my hand trembling. A part of me wanted to turn back, to abandon this twisted path. But I was tired of running. I wanted answers. So, I twisted the handle and pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, the sound eerie in the thick silence. Inside was a dimly lit room, cluttered with medical equipment long forgotten. Broken glass crunched under my feet as I stepped in, shards reflecting the faint light above. The air was heavy with the scent of antiseptic, mixed with something rancid that made my stomach churn. In the far corner of the room, a single light flickered weakly, illuminating what looked like an operating table. My heart pounded with each cautious step I took. What had happened here? As I scanned the room, I noticed something lying on the table. Clipboard. I moved closer, drawn by an insatiable curiosity. The papers were old and yellowed, but I could make out scrawled notes and names. My heart raced as I noticed one name repeated several times: Maggie Stevens. The girl. "Where are you?" I whispered again, feeling the weight of the room pressing down on me. Just then, a noise came from behind me, a soft rustling. I turned, every nerve in my body on high alert. Shadows shifted near the door I had just entered, creeping closer. I strained to see, but they melted into the darkness, barely distinct. "Please," the voice called out, now more urgent. "You have to help me." I took a step back, feeling the cool metal of the operating table against my back. Panic surged through me. I needed to find her. She was here somewhere, but where? The whispers outside were growing louder, twisting into an unsettling mix of cries and laughter. Then, the door slammed shut with a violent bang, sending my heart racing. I tried to push it open, but it wouldn't budge. I was trapped. In a moment of desperation, I pounded on the door, yelling, "Let me out, please." I turned back to face the room, my breathing ragged now. Something was rising from the shadows, figures taking shape. I squinted, trying to see more clearly. They wore tattered hospital gowns, their faces obscured. Their eyes glimmered with a mix of fear and longing. "Help us," they chorused, reaching out with skeletal hands. My breath hitched in my throat. This was too much. The red light above flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness. A chill swept through, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread settle over me. Then a sharp voice pierced the silence. "She's here." That single statement left me reeling. Who was here? What did they want from me? I felt the shadows press in closer, and I had to act. I needed to find the girl before it was too late. But as I lurched toward the shadows, I realized the darkness wasn't just creeping around me. It was alive. It buzzed with tension, and something was stirring within it. That S when I heard a gasp behind me. I turned, my heart racing anew. The girl stood there, pale and scared, as if she had emerged from the shadows themselves. "You're here," she said, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and fear. "You have to hurry." "What do you need me to do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Every instinct in my body screamed that time was running out, and yet I felt so lost, unsure of what her appearance truly meant. Her gaze shifted to the darkened corners of the room, shadows flickering and roiling like angry spirits. "Trust me," she pleaded, extending a tiny hand towards me. "Follow me." As soon as I grasped her hand, a sudden jolt of fear released through me. We dashed past the ghostly figures still lingering in the corner, their whispers begging for help echoing faintly, yet drowning in the urgency of the moment. "Where are we going?" I gasped, pushing past the overwhelming dread that hung in the air thick as smoke. "Before they see us," she urged, pulling me towards an exit on the far side of the room. The figures shifted, sighing in frustration, but we kept moving. The girl darted through the shadows, leading me to a narrow door that I hadn't noticed before. A faint glimmer of light seeped through the edges. With a swift motion, she swung the door open, revealing another corridor bathed in cold, eerie light. I hesitated, a soft voice echoing from behind me. They were calling my name, begging. I wanted to stop, to turn back, but the girl's grip held tight to mine, fear anchoring us together. "Go," she urged, her eyes wide with urgency. We sprinted down the corridor, the shadows lengthening behind us. Every sound felt amplified, the heavy footsteps of something pursuing us, the guttural whispers curling around my legs like serpents. I was terrified, but I still felt that familiar pulse of hope. Maybe escape was close. The corridor twisted like a labyrinth, but the girl navigated with a confidence that felt uncanny. "This way," she shouted, skirting a corner just as the lights flickered out again. "Why are you helping me?" I shouted, breathless. "What do you need?" "Just keep moving," she insisted, glancing back fearfully. "You have to help me break it." "Break what?" I felt my frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "What am I supposed to do?" The curse, the urgency in her voice was deafening. "You have to find the heart of this place. It's where it all began. Please, you're my only hope." Just then, we skidded to a halt at another door, a plain wooden one that looked strangely out of place in the oppressive atmosphere. "This is it," she breathed, pulling it open and flooding the corridor with a warm light. "In here." As we stepped through, I felt the energy shift, my senses heightened, alert and painfully aware of the shadows lingering outside. The room was filled with old equipment, but amidst the disarray, I spotted something at the center, a rusted heart embedded into the floor. "What is that?" I looked down, bewildered. "It's the key," she answered, her fingers trembling as she reached towards it. "It's tied to all of us. You have to break it." Suddenly, a deep growl reverberated through the air. The laughter from the shadows grew louder than ever. "You shouldn't have come here. The distorted echoes taunted. I squared my shoulders, adrenaline sparking in my veins. "Help me!" I almost shouted, glancing back to the girl, whose wide eyes reflected a fear that matched my own. "We can do this together. Maggie!" A voice called from the shadows. I knew it then. The sinister threats were feeding on our fear. "Stay with me," I ordered the girl, clutching her hand tighter as we stepped toward the heart. "We can't let them win." With one deep breath, I reached down to touch the heart. As my fingers brushed against the rusted surface, an icy shock ran through my veins. Instantly, the room shifted and warped around me. The figures, their faces tormented, twisted in the shadows, contorting, howling in anger. The whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar, drowning out everything else. "Help! Help us!" echoed repeatedly. The cries mingled between spectral laughter. With one last glance at the girl beside me who nodded fiercely, I squeezed my eyes shut and slammed my palm against the heart. The room exploded with light and sound. A blinding flash enveloped me. It felt like I was being pulled apart and reassembled all at once. I could hardly breathe. Moments passed an eternity wrapped in darkness, and just when I thought I'd disappear into the void, the light vanished. I opened my eyes and stumbled backward. I was outside. The stars blinked brightly above me. The air felt fresh against my skin. I collapsed on a patch of grass, gasping for breath. "What just happened?" I muttered, looking around. The hospital stood tall but oddly normal, as though I'd been swallowed by a nightmare, only to be expelled into reality. "Emma?" A voice called softly, and I jerked my head up. It was a police officer, calm and unassuming, standing by the entrance as if nothing had happened. "We received a call about disturbances inside. Are you all right?" I blinked, confusion clouding my mind. "What do you mean?" "The girl, the heart, what girl?" he asked, eyebrows furrowing. Before I could answer, a rush of sirens echoed in the distance. Shivers crept down my spine. Had it all been real? The girl, the shadows, the laughter, it felt tangible. I staggered to my feet. "Just let me go home," I whispered, feeling a heaviness in my heart. As I turned to leave, I felt the air shift behind me, a lingering sense of presence. I looked back into the hospital, but the lights remained dark and still, echoes of whispers fading into the breeze. Some questions remained unanswered. I never learned who the girl was or what had happened. And while I walked away, a part of me wondered if the shadows still lingered, waiting for the next soul to walk those halls. I moved away that week, leaving my job behind, yet the memory still gnaws at me like a waking dream. Sometimes, at night, I look toward the hospital and wonder, what really happened? I always feel like something is watching, waiting, just beyond reach. Maybe I'll never know.